Hey everybody, in the last video we looked at applying a clipping mask to our background elements, and we also looked at applying transparencies and how to flatten those transparencies for print. In this video, if I flick back to our example, we're going to look at placing the key visuals. So our model, our destination, some of our text, and all that fun stuff. So this is where the design is actually going to come to life, which is really exciting. So let's hop back into Adobe Illustrator. Because we're going to be working with artwork at this point, I'm going to make sure that I'm selected on the artwork layer. Again, if you don't have your layers panel open, you can always go up to Window and select Layers. Additionally, if you want to see your workspace set up just like mine, you can always go to Workspace and choose Essentials Classic, and that will give you a lot of the same elements that I have on my screen if it's easier for you to follow along. Okay, so I'm on the artwork layer, and now I want to place some content. I'm going to go up to File, Place, Shift, Control, or Command P, depending on your operating system, if you're a keyboard shortcut person. And what I'm looking for is the frizzy hair CMYK file that we created in the previous modules from that cutout of our model. I'm going to go ahead and hit place, and this is where, yet again, I'm going to sort of click and drag out my model. I want to drag it from one end of the bleed down to the other end. One second. I'm going to lock the background layer so that I don't accidentally grab anything. And now I can actually start shifting things around. Excellent. One thing when it comes to the bleed versus the live edge, or the actual printable area of the advertisement, you always want to make sure that your assets, if there is edge-to-edge color or anything like that, that they can bleed off the edge of the page. That's totally fine. In our case, with our model, the important parts of her are the face and the phone. And so I don't really mind if her shoulder gets cut off a little bit or the bottom of her jacket gets cut off. She's filling the frame really nicely where she is, and so I'm totally fine to have some of her being cut off in that bleed area off to the left-hand side. Once again, I'm going to place in the next element, so Command-Shift-P. And I'm going to go up to my palm tree graphic here. I'm going to hit place, and then I can click and drag it out so that it takes up a good amount of space, probably somewhere about there. And if we look back at our example, you can see that the palm tree is actually facing the other way. That's a really easy thing to fix, so let's go take a look. All we have to do is, with our graphic selected, hit right click, go down to transform, and hit reflect. We can go ahead and hit OK, and there we go. So now I want to sort of make it so that our palm tree is layered in behind our model. I can open up my layers panel and I can move that layer underneath the model. And what this does is just give me a little bit of depth so that it looks like elements are layered into the composition and they're not just so stuck one on top of another. This is why understanding how the layers panel works and organizing your assets effectively can really help to improve the overall composition of what it is that you're producing. All right, next up, I think we're going to look at some text and the Airbnb logo. Since we're placing elements, let's go ahead and place the Airbnb logo. So I'm going to, once again, File, Place, and I've given you the Airbnb logo right here. It's the vertical version. So I'm going to go ahead and just place it in my document for now. And yeah, this is obviously quite large, and it comes in as an actual vector object, which is great. And you can see here that there's this coral color, which is really helpful, but we want it to be white because it's going to be sitting down in here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just click on the logo, double click on the fill, go up to the white so that we have an actual white colored logo now, and I can scale it down to an appropriate size and then move it into my composition. One thing that's really important to understand when you're working with logos for brands is they require what's referred to as clear space. This is an imaginary sort of like border around the logo where nothing else should really interact. It's something that is really heavily paid attention to by brands when you're designing creative. And by making sure that you leave a lot of white space around a logo in your own projects, it'll give them a sense of polish and professionalism that agencies or potential employers are looking for when you actually go to show them a portfolio of work. So it's just a good habit to find a nice quiet area for your logos to sit in and leave them a lot of room. Okay, so the next step is going to be typography, and to make sure that we're doing our type correctly, we're going to open up the brand guidelines from your assignment brief. So just give me a second to go pull that up. Okay, so I've got it open over here. And just to remind you, under the Airbnb out of home campaign folder that I gave you for assignment 3, there is a folder with all these different files in it. So under from the client, there's a brand board file here. This will tell us all the information we need to know about the brand. So it gives us the brand color, which is great, and it tells us the typeface. So I'm going to be using Montserrat, and I want to make sure that I get that color properly added into the document. So first things first, I'm going to just create my heading, which I believe I settled on work from here as the main heading. So I'm going to type in work from. I'm going to switch this over to Montserrat. I think we can go with Montserrat regular for now. And let me just double check. Is it all caps? Yes. So when it comes to character customization and making sure that you are adjusting the typefaces in the best possible way, you can either look at your properties panel over here on the right hand side, or you can always open up window, type, and then character, and it will open up the character window for you as well. The character window has a few more options than the properties panel shows you, but if you want to see all the options that the property windows shows you, you can always select these 3 dots and it will basically pull up a copy of the character panel for you to take a look at. So what I would like to do is switch this to all caps. By switching this button on instead of typing in all caps, it allows me to toggle back and forth between sentence case and all caps without having to retype anything. So it's a little bit of a benefit. Try to get in the habit of using this if you're somebody who likes to write headlines in all caps for emphasis. And then I'm going to track this block of text out a little bit to give it some space. So remember, tracking is the space between all characters in a block of text. I'm going to place this over here, and I'm going to make sure that it is centered on my page. And the next thing that I have to do is make sure that I have the correct color. So for that, I'm going to open up my swatches panel. If you don't see swatches, you can always go to window and then scroll down to swatches, and it'll open up. And I am going to create a new swatch. So I'm clicking on this hamburger menu up in the top right, new color swatch. I'm going to call this, the brand board calls it Carnation, so I'm going to call it Carnation. And let's see here, I'm going to switch this over to RGB for 1 second. Because the brand board gives us a hashtag, that is an RGB color. So I'm just going to type in what that value is over here. FD5C63. Great. I can switch this back over to CMYK just so that I know what the CMYK values are, and I'm just going to tidy up these decimal points a little bit. We want to leave it as a process color, and leaving it as a global color is fine as well, so I'll go ahead and hit OK. And now I've added that color swatch into my library. Now, if I ever need to go and apply that color to something else, I have it there for reference. I'm just going to copy this heading, so Command C, Command V. I'm going to shift it back up, and now we're going to add in the next part of our heading, which is the word here. This was going to be written in bold, and we're going to bring the tracking back down. And then this time we're probably going to have to increase this to like 100, a little bit too big. So what I want to try and do is make sure that the word here is the same width as the line of text above it. That'll just create a nice block to be able to work from. After you've sort of aligned the two together, we can click on one, shift click on the next to select them both, and we can just scale them up together so that they're an appropriate size. I want to layer them in a little bit behind my model's head just to show some interaction. And so in order to get that layering effect to happen, I need to, first of all, make sure that my text is on the correct layer. So if you wrote your text on the artwork layer like I did, no big deal. You can just open up the layers panel, click and hold shift to click on the second layer of text and bring it up to the text layer. Then we can click on the text layer and drag it down below the artwork layer. And now you can see that the word here is tucked neatly in behind my model's head, giving once again this perception of a little bit of depth in the actual project itself, which is kind of cool. And then the last block of text is going to sit in here. So for this, I'm going to use my type tool once again, T on the keyboard, and you can do two things with the type tool, by the way. You can either click once and just start typing, or you can click and drag out a text frame. I often find clicking and dragging out a text frame is not always the best option when you only have a few words of type to include. It just kind of gets in the way, but I just want to kind of let you know that it's an option for you. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And let me see, what is the text that I have to include here? I think it says book a long-term rental today. So I'm going to click book a, and then press enter, long-term, enter, rental today. I want this to be aligned on the right-hand side because I want it to align with sort of the edge of my circular element and the edge of the Airbnb element. I'm going to scale this down so it's not as large. I think about maybe 20, maybe 17 points is going to be good. And I'm going to uncheck all caps so that it goes back to a regular sort of sentence case appearance. And I just want to sort of try and place this so that it is aligned with the logo and it's kind of aligned with the edge of the tree element. And I'm going to change the color from black to white. And I might shrink this down actually to 15 and then change it from regular to semi-bold just so it stands out a little bit more at a smaller scale. And there we go. We have successfully laid out all of the assets for this advertisement. In the next video, I'm going to cover how to export this and how to actually load it into one of the mock-ups for your assignment. But nice work so far, everybody.